There's a lot of focus on breeders breeding inferior dogs at the moment, dogs beset with health problems. It's maybe worth thinking that the whole concept of human beings choosing mates for their dogs is slightly dodgy in the first place. In the wild, dogs choose their own mates, and they're looking for someone who's healthy and someone who's genetically opposite to them, and they use their senses to find a mate who's going to help them produce the best offspring. Unfortunately, what we're doing with the purebred dogs is taking a genetic similar and adding it to another genetic similar, and in that way then we're going to be compounding any genetic problems. It stands to reason that we're going to do that. So perhaps as dog lovers we need to think about that. The current system is based on trying to breed out problems, and so there are quite a few tests within each breed to try and root out where there are genetic problems and eradicate them. But again, you're dealing with a relatively small gene pool, and you're breeding like with like, which could cause problems. The other issue is that some breeds have so many genetic problems that it's actually difficult to find someone who doesn't have one or the other, and quite often breeders are playing Russian roulette. The question I often ask is, what causes the genetic defects in the first place? Where do those come from? And there's some evidence to say that diet has a great deal to do with genetic inheritance. We know that the individual's genes determine the nutritional requirements of each individual. So for example, in the human sphere, some people can't eat certain types of food. There's people with gluten intolerance, for example. Some people can eat whatever they like and they stay lovely and slim. Others eat the same amount and they put weight on. So each dog also has unique requirements for their food. The other problem is that genetic defects can block certain nutrients. So for example, if a human being has B12 deficiency, they need to have that supplemented by injection. If you're treating a dog for an existing illness with drugs, some of those drugs can also block nutrients. So there's no real one-size-fits-all as far as diet is concerned, and diet does have an effect on the genes. The other question is it an inherited problem or is it a vaccine problem? Research at Purdue University showed that vaccinated dogs, but not non-vaccinated dogs, developed auto-antibodies to their own DNA, and what that meant was that the vaccinated dogs were attacking their own blueprint for life. If we're doing this to dogs generation after generation, especially if we're doing it every year, then we're potentially causing genetic damage on an increasing scale. The Purdue study also found that the dogs were developing auto-antibodies to albumin in their body. Now, albumin is basically egg white is made of albumin, and it's the substance in the body that helps us to disperse essential fatty acids, which are vital for life. If the albumin is being destroyed, then the ability for the dog to utilise essential fatty acids is going to be made worse. Vaccinated dogs were also developing auto-antibodies to cardiolipin, and those auto-antibodies are associated with all autoimmune diseases. So, can you say it's the genes, or can you say it's the practice of vaccinating? And all so-called responsible breeders who haven't looked too far afield are vaccinating because they believe that's the right thing to do. So that means that the majority of puppies and adult dogs are dealing with these autoantibodies under cover. How do we know whether it's genes or those autoantibodies? Vaccines are also known through that Purdue study to cause dogs to develop autoantibodies to cytochrome C, and that's always present when there's cancer and other immune-mediated degenerative disorders. And in the Purdue study, the vaccinated dogs also developed autoantibodies to collagen. Now, collagen is this substance in the body that keeps you upright. It helps with movement, it's vital, and the dogs were attacking their own collagen. So once again, is that genetic or is that vaccine induced? Collagen is also involved with skin and internal organs and tendons and bones. So if the dog is attacking its own cells in those areas, you're going to end up with a not too healthy dog. We also know from many studies that vaccines destroy T cells. These are the part of the immune system that help to fight invaders. Immunodeficiency involving the T cells is associated with heart disease. And there are some breeds which are known to have heart problems, and T cell immunodeficiencies can be inherited. So once again, vaccines appear to be causing genetic defects which are going down the line. Vaccines are also known to cause thyroid disease, which again is inheritable. So every time we vaccinate a dog and then breed from that dog, we're potentially passing thyroid disease down the line. Thyroid disease itself can be treated, but it leaves the dog open for other immune-mediated diseases that can be fatal. There's good evidence to say that vaccines can cause diabetes. The Centre for Disease Control in America has stated that 80% of childhood onset diabetes is vaccine induced, and diabetes is a growing problem in the dog population. Is that inherited or is it vaccine induced? And we also know that vaccines trigger inflammatory diseases. The word inflammation is synonymous with hypersensitivity, and it's also synonymous with allergies. And there are a tremendous number of dogs alive today who suffer from itis diseases, which means basically inflammatory, so colitis, arthritis, itchy dermatitis, food allergies, inhalant allergies and so on. And actually what we find with vaccines is that they trigger these conditions. It doesn't help that the food we're feeding our dogs also leads to inflammatory states. So when we're looking at genes, I think you need to look at the first factor, that dogs in the wild choose their own mates and they're looking for genetic opposites. And then you need to start looking at the husbandry and the faults in husbandry that get passed down the line.